So everybody want to know how I keep whipping up everything so fast while being a CEO and a full-time. The other day I met you at the Life Do Grow farm, and you know what I mean, I was engaged with your brand, Rare Souls. Okay. And so the first thing I noticed was it was stylish as well as like the quality. And so like I've had a journey. If y'all know, I used to do merchandise, and it's never a used to. Like I paused the production of my merchandise because I started recognizing the difference between merchandise and clothing brands. Or I learned, and it wasn't a notice, I learned it. So can you tell us about that, and then I'll have you introduce yourself and all of that good stuff, but I want to like start off with some heat, where it's like, how do you distinguish like the quality of your brand, like what goes into the idea of that, and then telling the people some intricacies or some ideas or some information about the difference between making merchandise and like establishing a clothing brand.
I like the question. I mean, my whole beginning was just like, you know, I kind of took numerous places, but like I feel like with Rare Souls, just starting from the place of like knowing. At the beginning, I had this mindset of like starting a brand with no formal knowledge, just more so my natural connection to it, so no knowledge of no background or history in the fashion industry or clothing industry at all. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like this thing of like creatively being inspired by it and wanting to be a part of it. So as I started, it was just like this kind of like, I heard this saying of like, entrepreneurs kind of like, what, it's like you driving the car and trying to fix it at the same time, kind of thing. You know
I never heard that one, but that's true though.
Yeah,
trying to fix it.
So when I felt it, I'm like, I feel that. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like that's what I was doing. I was just going organically, just being, and just growing over time. So it was just like me starting with, it actually started with a button. So just like I had buttons, and I wish I had with me just the buttons, pins.
Yeah.
And I started with that, and just like kind of trying to visualize that actual font of that logo on clothing. So at first I wasn't really seeing it. I'm just like, I need maybe a different font. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try it on a t-shirt. And I tried it. I'm like, it looked pretty cool. I'm like, all right. And originally I didn't even plan to start with t-shirts. Okay. It was just like I kind of wanted to start different. I'm like, I like golf shirts. I'm gonna start with something like that. But it was just like to test that font. I'm just like, I'm gonna test it on t-shirts. And it kind of just did it. Got some t-shirts and just like some blank tees and just kind of just pressed them on there myself. Like me and my guy had like a partnership. We had the heat press machine, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got one too. That's why I'm like, I'm excited because I have one.
Yeah, so just pressed them on there. He pressed them on there for me. And I'm like, they not bad, they solid. So I'm like, now let me see how people take to them. And I feel like in the beginning, you got the people who just naturally support you.
Right, just because it's you.
Yeah, so it was just like, people was liking it. And then people having a connection to the name.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, all right, so that was like the foundation. And I feel like just taking small things over time where it's just like, like I said, just starting out organically where I'm like, all right, people going like this. And I'm like, all right, get 10 smalls and 15 mediums. And next thing you know, I'm looking up with all this product. I got to figure out how to
get it all.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm just going organically what I feel like they're going to buy. So like starting there and just kind of growing. Where it's like, all right, I can tweak that and kind of like, all right, get more into minimizing that. And then like, I feel like as I was learning, it just like became like, all right, I'm going to focus more on. So for a period of time, it was just like me being organically. Yeah. If I like something, I feel like I like that. I'm going to make it. And then it was like, all right, I want to get in the place of like actually working on a collection or some form of collection. Yeah. And I'm still I feel like I'm like at the tail end of that where I take more of a narrow approach now.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's this process of getting to that narrow approach of saying like I'm just focus on a few pieces and really zone in to be more effective.
And so let me just hop in real quick because I want to ask you about the font, because that's something that anyone who creates merchandise or clothing brands, that's like we're all going to cross that border unless you have like an image or a logo or something. But even then there's font elements to a logo.
For sure.
So it's like, what was the part that made this font speak to you, that made you commit to it, so that people can maybe get some insight or some just a battery in their back on how to identify with the font of Daydreams? Because I'm having trouble with that as well. As like, I like this font, but does it communicate the brand well, and does it resonate with the people? Because you'll show 5 different people 5 different fonts and get 5 different answers. So you can't validate it that way.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So what was the factor that helped you establish that was going to be the font?
So for me, like at this stage, I have a few different fonts.
Okay.
But the first one, like I said, that was on the button, like for me, all of it is like I love to connect to how it make me feel. So even like with the name, like having the name, like feeling the connection to the name before I even knew it was going to be clothing, or clothing was going to be connected to it.
Okay.
It was like that feeling, and to me, I love to connect to that feeling before I
Just start making shit.
yeah. So it was like that actual first font was like it. What inspired it was like just having that feeling. So it was just like that font to me was like something I always, as a consumer, it was like, for example, Bloomingdale's. I used to like enjoy going to Bloomingdale's. So it was a font that they had where I'm just like, it was already a deep connection to it. So it's like I always like Bloomingdale's. To me, it was like a lot of people, at least from what I experienced, it was like you had like what's that, Neiman Marcus. Yeah. A lot of people I knew was going to Neiman Marcus, and I just naturally connected to Bloomingdale's.
I feel that way about Express and Polo. People like Polo, but I love Express.
Come on,
yeah,
I feel
I
it.
love Express.
Yep. So do you know Express was you know the name before they was Express?
No.
It was I used to go there a lot. It was even as Express. Damn.
Yeah, no, I didn't even know they had it.
It's still they had. I gotta think of this name. It'll come to me.
Yeah, while you talk, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. It's like to come up. But yeah, so I always loved Express, man. So I feel you when I connect.
It's like you said, when a brand speaks to you personally, you go there, and you said something about what you consumed. I used to always tell people, like, if I'm not wearing it, I'm not making it. I want to wear what I make. So if it's not drippy, I'm not making it.
Come on. No question.
All right, so let's look it up. And if y'all know, let me, you know what I mean? If y'all could beat me to it, right? That would have been lit. But y'all seeing the recording, old name. Express's old name. All right. What did Express used to be called? The men's fashion line was spun off his own brand, Express. It just says it was called Express, and now it's called Express Men now. Unless they have, like, I'm just not Limited Express.
Limited Express is something different.
Yeah, y'all might be able to help us. Yeah, say it in the comments if y'all, because we're going to move it.
For sure.
So let us know in the comments, like, if y'all do the homework and figure out what Express was before it was Express, I'm going to bless y'all up with access to the digital community that I created, because I appreciate that type of diligence. Going back into the product element, right? The thing that stuck out to me, and before I get there, right? Merchandise and clothing brand. So like, why is it not a merch brand? And like, if you could even just define the difference for people, or at least what you define the difference as. Or if it's not a difference, like, I don't want to speak for you. Like, what is your opinion?
Yeah. So for me, that's a great question for me, because I never really, I guess, examined that question, the difference, and because for me it was just like, at a root, it was like me creating and me like respecting the craft. So me studying the game, and just like you asked me with fonts, like I study fonts, I watch videos on fonts, and like you say, the different and what they give off, and how some is more corporate masculine, corporate versus
masculine,
and all that. So I studied all that. So it's like me just like knowing I'm coming into a world where I love it creative, I love it as a consumer, or just creatively, but wanting to respect the craft as well. Yeah. So a lot of things technically,
it's just artwork and work for you. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. So I guess to me, I guess I look at merchandising versus a clothing brand. It's just like, because I look at Rare Souls as more than that, with the different elements that we looking to offer, or that we offer.
Right.
Because I think we might have had a conversation about me. I think I spoke on the mindset or even the
manufacturing and production. You wanted to get into that. That's what I remember.
That as well. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so having kind of like this vertical integration in the sense of like, but also the side of like the lifestyle side. Okay. Where it's like we do these 3-day cleanses every first 3 days of the month.
Word. No, talk to us about that.
So we do. So what it actually started, I was already doing them personally myself, and it was just like, I was looking at that as just something I could offer. I always want to see if I can add value to the community. Yeah. And it's like, are we offering the clothing, they buying, but it's like, I want to do more, I want to add value. That's the bigger picture. Yeah. So I just look at the timing, you know what I'm saying? So when the COVID, the pandemic came, I'm like, this is a great time to start talking about taking care of our bodies. So maybe I could implement.
That's amazing, and it still speaks to being a rare soul. Everybody not gonna do that, so it really speaks to the community of like, I love that. I want to do one of those. So when you do that next,
it's coming in July.
Yeah. Oh, so that's a few days. I'm tapped in.
This prep, this is good prep time, right?
Yeah, I'm tapped in.
Yeah.
So get that grocery.
Indeed. Yep. So that's like, so things like that where it's like I look at it like in these stages where it's like, all right, what is Rare Souls? It was like, it wasn't easy for me to just say like it's a clothing brand, it's a lifestyle brand, even though like I feel like that's the that lifestyle brand
and shit.
term where people relate to as identifiable as saying a lifestyle brand. But I feel like it's like, yeah, it's these different elements we're looking to offer at the end of the day to add value as much as we can to the community, the different communities. So I guess that answer.
Absolutely, that answers it perfectly, because most of the time merchandise is meant to just sell one specific idea. So like if I had a song,
right,
we create some merch for that song, right? The clothing doesn't exist beyond that, or like like a Hot Boys mixtape, right? They made merchandise for that, but they didn't make clothing brands and lines to go and extend past it. But you just said it. It's like clothing brands are, they can be a catalog of clothing. They switch over the seasons. They consistently use that brand. Like those are the key elements I see. But then it even goes larger. It's like, no, this isn't just a clothing brand. This is a brand, for sure. Right? So we starting with clothes, but it's like we're gonna also foster and create other opportunities and services and things that you can benefit from if you identify with the message.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So I like that idea, and I think merchandise can be a part of a clothing brand, and a clothing brand can tap into a merchandising, aspect.
Right.
But I think it's just all business. But when you said it, though, it's like the creative part of you and me too. I don't see the difference, right? This is coming from a place where I intend on honoring it and servicing it as much as possible, right? There isn't going to be no limit. So that's why I asked that question, because it's like, but I've never gotten that answer. It was like, as a creative person or the person with the creative direction, I'm getting in my bag. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm not worried about. So I'm going to ask, my next question would be, and before we do all of that, introduce yourself. You know what I mean? Because I'll get all the way into it. So.
I go by Coup. People call me Coup. So I'm like the founder of Rare Souls, basically. Born and raised Philadelphia. And I'm actually a member of Rec Philly.
Damn right.
Yes, that's
what's up.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm going to clip this joint, because I'm